Thank you, sir. Mr. Kelly. Mr. Dennis Kelly, first of all, as an opening, I'm Dejanette, so any questions that you have, and actually at the end, we're going to have a quiz. I did not bring gifts because I didn't know. So I'm going to talk to you about asbestos from my world. You've heard from the regulators, although I follow the regulations by, Mississippi Department of Environmental Quality governs everything that we do, and EPA, and we always want to be assured that we are following the guidelines that they've outlined. So I'm going to just generally talk to you about asbestos awareness, and just keep in mind at the very end is a question, very easy questions, but it's going to help you to be more knowledgeable at your particular facility. And let's see, as I move. Okay, is everyone familiar with asbestos, and do you know what asbestos is? Yes? No? Well, asbestos is a naturally occurring mineral. And there are different types of asbestos, and I'm not going to go into the quiz at the end will be very easy, but the three most common types of asbestos that we see is chrysotile, amosite, and crucidolite. It's shown in over 3,000 products. And I'm going to go through and show you some of those particular products that do exist. There are surfacing materials such as piping, okay? Miscellaneous material. Their desirable physical properties, because we don't want them to become friable, because you know what friability means? If it's crumbled, if you can put it in your hand and it crumbles, it's in a pulverized state and it becomes airborne. So sometimes when you hear asbestos, there's no need to get alarmed as long as you use protective practices. What are the health hazards? How do we get various issues with asbestos? Once we inhale it, once it becomes pulverized, it becomes airborne. And as we breathe, we're inhaling it into our bodies, and it attacks our lungs. So just remember, it must be disturbed before it becomes a hazard to you. There are different types. You can become lung cancer, asbestosis, mesothelioma. They're different, and you hear about this with lawyers on do you hear about that when you watch television? And there are different lawsuits. But the latency period is 15 to 40 years. So once you're exposed, many times you don't know. If you're a smoker, we've talked about smoking, there are a lot of effects with smoking. You increase the chances of getting these diseases. So we always, again, in everything that we do, we want to lessen smoking because it affects us in a lot of different ways. Defense mechanism. What things are there in our bodies that protect us from, what defense mechanisms do we have from asbestos? Our nose and mouth, the mucus line breathing passages. So the cilia in our body is protected, but just think about it. When you're breathing and the fibers are very tiny, if you think about one strand of your hair, that's very small, isn't it? So you can't always see it, but if you're breathing it and it attacks your body, the different passages of cilia in your body can only protect it up to a certain point. When you breathe it, it affects that cilia, and sometimes it numbs it. So if it's numbing, has the numbing effect, then it's not as doing what it's supposed to do. Talked about smoking. It impairs your body defense mechanism and increases the risk of lung cancer. Okay, these are examples when you hear asbestos. Sometimes when we hear asbestos, what do we think about? Floor tile. That's the thing that you hear most often. These are pictures of some other types of materials that you should be aware of when you see it. Piping. Sometimes it can be underground piping that's wrapped in a particular insulation. It can be, many times in buildings, you'll see this is like a sprayed on surface of material. Once that crumbles and becomes pulverized, then you're at risk. Suspect material. This is kind of geared from the contractor. If in your building you have not had an inspection conducted, which you should, okay? The first thing you should do before you start any inspection is you want to make sure that it is inspected, because you don't know what suspect materials. Many times we have ceiling material, even the ceiling in this building. If it had not been inspected, as we look around in this building, we would have it inspected before we think about replacing it. The picture with the glue, this is a ceiling. And sometimes you'll see ceiling tile that is glued on. Have you seen this at your day or in any particular building? Sometimes that glue contains asbestos, but if we don't know, you think it's just glue. This is a wall. Sometimes sheetrock and walls, sometimes the 2x4s, the joint compounds in that wall may have asbestos. So what I'm showing you are different photographs such that when you see it again, perhaps you might recognize it. Piping, this is another type of piping. When you see that installation on that piping looking in this state, then if you touch it, what's going to happen? It's going to fall to the ground. You're making it friable. So remember, if your maintenance guys are coming in, or whoever, a handyman that you have perhaps doing some type of job, you don't want to expose them because you're exposing the workers, you're exposing yourself, you're exposing the children. So you always want to be very aware of that. So friability is key. Water damage. If you have water damage on your floor tile, and I'm going to show you some other areas, any type of deterioration, physical damage, any incident, just be aware. 1978 is your target. So if you have a building, what's the age of your buildings? Is it older than 1978? Oh, I'm thinking lead, aren't I?
Yeah, I was just
I'm
gonna say,
thinking lead. Look, I'm thinking lead. You're right. You're right.
basically what she's saying is there is no date after which you can assume that your building is asbestos free. That's what she was indicating.
Right.
So even a building built in 2008 could, in all likelihood, still have asbestos products in it. By the way, I am also a contact for asbestos.
He is, and you know, Mr. Kelly is a very knowledgeable and a wonderful information. Because even though he's in the lead division right now, actually he wears both hats. I think you wear all hats. So if there's a lead question, if there's an asbestos question, if there's a mold question, he is a wealth of knowledge. And also, as he stated earlier, don't be, I find that many times people are afraid of the Mississippi Department of Environmental Quality. And Dennis, when you come into a building or you go on site, it's like, oh my gosh, why is he here? But he's really here to help, not to cause you any harm. So don't be afraid. He want to make sure that you do it right the first time. He doesn't want there to be a problem.
My time is too valuable to write up avoid them by giving you advice on the front end. So that's why I say, I want you to call me before you start a project. I want to be able to guide you through this morass that is called regulations. Remember, they are written by lawyers for lawyers. Okay? We are trained and we take the time to study these so that we can interpret them and then advise you on what you're required to do. That is our job. We only go out and do penalties and violations when you don't call ahead of time or you refuse to take our advice.
Or if you see, so today is gathering information, right?
Oh, yes.
So if we know that this ceiling, if you see this ceiling in your building, and your contractor comes in or your handyman comes in and starts scraping, just think about the danger that's being done. So just be aware. This is awareness, okay? This is asbestos awareness so that you will know what preventive measures to take so that you're not harming yourself. This is another pipe. There are so many different types of wrapping on pipes. Sometimes it looks as though it's cement, and your handyman or maintenance guy may think it's cement because it's very hard. But many times that material is called transite. It's very hard, it's very brittle, but you always want to be aware. Let me go back. this is, again, sometimes in certain material, you may not think it is, but again, that's why you want to have an inspector that's certified and trained to identify every product that's going to be disturbed during any type of renovations that you're doing. Okay, floor tile. Everybody's familiar with floor tile. Sometimes the floor tile may not have it, but again, if you don't test it, you don't know. You see the little black underneath it? That's called mastic. And many times mastic will contain asbestos as well. I'm going too fast, aren't I? This is a clearer picture of what I showed you earlier. Many times when the ceiling tile is there, there's glue. They added glue to make it stick so it doesn't come off, but over a period of time it will break. So usually, again, all of these pictures are suspect material. Again, another pipe, a metal pipe with a wrap. And many times if you see an insulation, sometimes they may have foil on the back. That's a good indicator that it is asbestos as well. Tanks, if you have like a boiler room, this is the pipe and this is the tank. Sometimes the coating on the exterior of those paints contains asbestos. So if you decide at some point I want to have this removed, then you want to take preventive measures. And these are just different. Sometimes rubber. We see rubber. We think that rubber may not contain, but sometimes rubber is the exterior, but inside is a different material that makes it up. This is another just insulation. Floor tile. Do anybody have 9x9 floor tile? Do you have floor tile in your buildings? Probably you do, don't you? Either carpet, you have carpet, floor tile, linoleum. Just concrete, any kind? Probably not because of the children. You want something, okay. But remember, it's only a danger. See, just like this, even if this, let me go back. I'm getting ahead of myself. See how nice and shiny that is? Paint, when you have like a wax serves as an encapsulant. So if in your particular facility you have floors that look like this, it may contain asbestos, because typically 9x9 floor tile does. But just because it's there doesn't mean you have to remove it, but you need to maintain it. Make sure that it's encapsulated and make sure you have a safe environment. Transite, we talked about transite earlier. Transite comes in different areas. Remember I told you about sometimes it looks like concrete, and sometimes people will define it as that. These are concrete. This is transite. Sometimes you'll see houses that have, it's like plates with lines on it. Have you seen that? It comes in different colors, but it's very hard. It's shingles. Have you ever seen it? No? The older homes, the real older homes. Yes? Okay. Again, that's pipe. Okay. Asbestos, these are likely locations where you can see asbestos. Based on what we talked about, we can see it on the floor. So if it's on the floor, it could be carpet. Say underneath this, unless there's a padding. If there's a padding underneath the carpet, then you're probably safe. But sometimes just because you see carpet and you don't see the floor tile, the reason that an inspection is so important is you want to know what's underneath it. The carpet possibly could be glued to the tile. There could be several layers of tile. And you may think, well, I'm not going to disturb the floor tile. I just want to pull up the carpet. But think about it. If the carpet is glued to the tile, what's going to happen when you pull up the carpet? The tile is going to come up as well. So again, remember, when you start pulling it up, you're disturbing it. So this is showing, the red is showing asbestos cement products. So the transite is here. We have textured ceilings. The yellow are textured ceilings. The blue is representing floor tile, textiles, and composites. The green is representing spray coatings on walls, beams, columns. The purple, asbestos insulation board. 6 is the lagging, and 7 is loose asbestos in ceiling or floor cavity. So if you have an emergency, what do you do? What's the first thing you do if you have an emergency? Call 911? Well, first thing you want to do is stop what you're doing and try to contain it. Don't attempt to clean it up. Secure the area. Secure what you're working. Because you definitely, 911 is fine. But also, DEQ, I keep telling you that, okay? You want to
She's got
contact.
my number on speed dial.
I do.
Joking.
So you want to make sure that you contact the appropriate personnel, because if you call 911, who are you going to get, the police? The police doesn't know about environmental, well, maybe. Do you think so, Dennis? The police is going to call MDEQ, because when you see a spill on the road, like the truck that just turned over, who did you see out on the side? DEQ. So think about it. They're the governing entity. They're to keep you safe. And you want to contain it the best that you can, and then you do not want to re-enter until you're instructed to do so. So first thing you should do is contain it. Well, first thing is stop work, contain it, secure your area, notify the Department of Environmental Quality, okay, and they will instruct you, but do not re-enter. That's in any emergency situation, not just asbestos. Now, the rules and regulations that we follow, we've talked about, well, DEQ is our regular entity. Here they have OSHA. OSHA is designed to protect the workers. And one thing that you do is you want to always make sure that your students, at your particular facility, that everyone is being protected. And that's what OSHA is there to protect you. Environmental Protection Agency is the governing entity that protects us. But they have given promulgation to the Mississippi Department of Environmental Quality. So they're your EPA, okay? So again, Dennis, Luge, use the resource that you have. Now this is just an indication of abatement activities. If you needed to have an area in your building abated, first thing we do is we suit up. We put on our Tyvek, our respirators. You have to be your abatement crew, number one, they should have their contractor's license. The supervisor, you should always have a supervisor on site. Your workers and everyone should be certified, trained and certified with the Mississippi Department of Environmental Quality. So they've gone through fit testing to make sure that they're wearing the proper respirator. They're going to wear their safety glasses, their Tyvek. And many times they don't like those Tyvek because they say that they're heavy, but they're good because they protect you. So there are 3 different types of abatement activities. There's encapsulation, and encapsulation means, say if you have floor tile on this floor, and it is not in great condition, but it's contained and it's sealed, you can't put carpet over it, because again, you're minimizing making it become friable. Okay? Enclosure and removal. Removal is the best way because you're removing the contaminant, but it's also the most costly. Now, I have a quiz. Who can tell me what asbestos is? You guys were listening, weren't you? You get kudos, okay? Okay, now let's see. Name, and I said this time and time again, name 3 building materials that may contain asbestos. Okay, let's go with this table. Just give me one.
Insulation.
That's good. Anybody else? Floor tile, okay. Give me one more. Glue, yeah, that's good. That's good. That's good. Okay, now I talked about 3 diseases. Oh, and I'm gonna help you look. 3 diseases that I heard: mesothelioma. You guys are good. Asbestosis. All right. Very good. Now, when is asbestos a health hazard? Sure. That's right. What greatly increases the risk of lung cancer? Smoking. What should you do if you identify damaged ACM? That was good. You guys were really listening. Well, that's it. That's it.
Everybody, you see? We'll have.
You pay a sewer bill or a water bill, it's all on one thing. That means you flush your toilet or whatever, you pay your bill. Okay? That's a centralized wastewater treatment system. Waste leaves the property, it goes for treatment. Wastewater collection and treatment system that consists of collection sewers and a centralized treatment facility other than an individual on-site system. I've been to property owners out in the field, and they call us and, you know, something's going wrong, and we've been out there and you don't have an on-site system, okay? Some people don't know what they have. They don't know until a problem occurs. So typically, again, wastewater is processed by typically a centralized wastewater system. You pay your bill and it gets treated, or an on-site system. All of that activity is taking place on your property, everything. There's other methods, I'm not going to get into that today, to treat wastewater, like decentralization and cluster systems and things like that. You can combine and do a combination of a lot of different things when you get into bigger developments and residential and industrial type situations. If your centralized wastewater system, you're connected to a network, okay? No wastewater treatment taking place on site. Being redundant here purposely, okay? Just to give you an idea, you got a business or a residence, you know, down a typical street, okay? That might be the daycare, that might be your house down the road. You've got basically a sewer tap to the street. Sewer line runs through here. You've seen the little sewer manholes, the little steel lids on the street, okay? Well, you know you're in an area where there's a big collection system going through there. And eventually it's going down to somewhere to a big plant, usually the city of wherever you're at, somewhere USA, or in your community. And then it's treated and it's discharged, okay? There's other ways to discharge wastewater, but that's a typical scenario. And it goes into our rivers and streams and bayous and what have you. If you hear the news, sometimes you can hear a lot of overflows and things like that. Some of that sewage does go untreated. Millions of gallons sometimes. If you have an individual on-site wastewater system, wastewater treatment, again, treatment and disposal process is taking place on site. So if you think about all that, collection lines and the manholes and everything, treatment and disposal, that is being confined on your property if you're not a centralized wastewater system. So there's a lot of things go on. Just to give you an idea, this is a house, or it could be a residence, or a daycare. It could be a little shop, a little retail store, whatever. Toilet, sink, bathroom, whatever. It's got to go through treatment, some type of collection. Everything comes out. A lot of the folks can kind of get familiar with, that's a clean out. That's very close to the property, and back of the property or on the side. And if you see that and some type of partition of a tank, you're close to, you probably got the on-site system, other than if you're not paying a sewer bill. Okay? So you got to treat it, and you got to do something with it. That's the hard part. We can collect the wastewater all day long, let it do its thing, and then we got to figure out what we're going to do with it. That's what the environmentalists do for the state of Mississippi. We study the soil, and to make these determinations, we design this based on design standards in our regulations. We don't just have a rule book and say, okay, you need a 1,000-gallon tank or whatever. We got to figure that out on every site.
That little pipe you got sticking up right there, what is it for?
Right here, that is just a clean out. It serves a purpose basically for clogging anything that comes out, you know, if tissue or grease, things build up and accumulate over time.
It come out right there.
It's typically
not
right
up.
there close to the surface. It may not be as high, but it's a 4-inch pipe typically, 3-inch might be. You might see a 6-inch in some areas if it's larger. All right, here's a question. What happens after we flush the toilet, take a shower, or wash clothes?
Into the tank. You want to go back?
It's got to do something, right?
Yeah.
Out of sight, out of mind is a common attitude we have. I've lived in both situations, and I've paid my sewer bill and say, okay, you don't think about it until you got a problem.
Yeah.
Well, the wastewater has to go somewhere, and my question is, where do you think that somewhere is? Somewhere starts with treatment. The pictures I showed you, that definition of an on-site system. I'm going to talk about on-site systems from here on out. You got a septic tank, or you got a treatment system, an advanced treatment system. An advanced treatment system, that is the term used in Mississippi. It's commonly referred as an aerobic treatment unit or a treatment plant. You may have heard some of those terms before. These are tanks buried in the ground that hold wastewater for treatment, typically installed or located within 5 to 10 feet from the dwelling or the building. That little pipe that Lee was asking about, that clean out, that's relatively close to the building, side of the building, back of the building. The tank should be very close within proximity of the building. Like I said, 5 to 10 feet, okay? They're not buried too deep. If you can use this table as your imagination as a tank, it might be 6 inches above the or below the surface, okay? If you had like a probe or something, you can probe down and kind of pinpoint where it's located. They can be, the smallest tank, to give you an idea, is 750 gallons as far as capacity. They go 900, 1,000, 1,250, and 1,500. They can get very big in the size of this room. But that's the common range. Give you an idea of what's going on in a tank. This over here on this side, if you think about it, you got an inlet and you got out, in and out. Waste comes in, waste goes out. This is a treatment process. It's holding the waste. Over years, the natural bacteria in the wastewater will break down. The microorganisms will eat each other, okay, and they'll die, and they'll replenish itself when new wastewater comes in. That's that sludge at the bottom. It'll build up, takes many years. It's what's going through here is not, that's what you don't want it to leave. If you can see, that's going to be a heavier weight. This is the effluent, the clear wastewater, still has lots of bacteria in it. Then you got all the fats, oils, and greases, what floats. Sounds gross, I know, but that's what it is. It is what it is.
And grease can clog it up.
Grease can clog it up, and of course the thing is how it's designed. The outlet side is lower, so you want to prevent a lot of some tanks. This is a generic drawing, okay, what goes on. You got some baffle walls and some things, you got filters and things like that. What comes out is basically the clear effluent. It's still bacteria loaded, okay, but it doesn't have all the particles and the solids with it, okay? An advanced treatment system. Again, on-site system for treatment. You got a septic tank or you got an advanced treatment system. This is, if you notice, this is just basic. A lot of things going on here, as you can see. Pre-treatment, wastewater coming in, same principle, waste coming in, that little side, it's got a side drawing, or it could be right there. Waste coming in, pre-treatment, aeration zone, clarifier kind of settles it out. You see how it's getting a little bit clearer and clearer? That's still got waste in it. You disinfect, you got a pump chamber, there's your aerator motor and your control panel. This has electricity. You got anybody ever had have our kids have a aquarium at home with little fish, little stones with the air bubbles? Same concept, but a little bit more sophisticated. You're introducing air into that. You're speeding up the process. That was treatment, okay? Again, we're dealing with an on-site wastewater system, that whole process. That's a very quick overview of treatment, septic tank or advanced treatment system. And I told you about where it's located at, within 5-10 feet of the house, by that clean out, and some of the processes that takes place. The somewhere ends with disposal, meaning once it leaves one of those tanks, the septic tank or the treatment unit, it's got to go somewhere. And these are different types of pipe, okay, delivery to get it in the ground, okay? These are underground. Aggregate is gravel, tire chips, crushed rock, that type thing. Aggregate replacement, you know, I'm giving you terms, but it's just a different method that wastewater can go underground. Chambers, polystyrene, you got multi-pipe, all the 8, 10-inch, 6-inch pipe, there's all different sizes. Elevated sand mound, it is what it sounds like. It's a mound built up with wastewater goes into it. Drip irrigation, it's like a garden hose put into the ground. That's a concept thousands of years ago to irrigate our crops. It was used for wastewater disposal. It's another concept, been around for a long time. And then you got surface application. You can spray the wastewater on the ground, after it's chlorinated, of course. And you can overland discharge, again, straight out on top of the ground. So that's the disposal. Maintenance. All on-site wastewater systems require maintenance. True or false? True. Good. Maintenance on those two types. Now I'm using another term here, but it's the same one that deals with the septic tank. The septic tank picture that I showed you that had simple process in it, we had to show the fats, oils, and grease in it. That's a slow process. Anaerobic, no oxygen. Goes in there, waste. It's this slow process. It's settling and it's trying to, the grease goes to the top, the effluent and the bacteria and all the microorganisms are working, doing their natural thing, breaking down. That's the septic tank. An advanced treatment system is more maintenance because it's mechanical. You remember all the little walls and mechanics and the air bubbles and all that stuff going on. Is a faster treatment process. It's aerobic, like the fish aquarium, introducing the air bubbles in the tank so the fish can breathe. This is introducing air for those bacteria. Things can break down, okay? How often do you think a septic tank or an advanced treatment system needs to be pumped out? Just give me some number. 5, 10 years, 6 months, 2 years.
According to how big it is, too.
All right, I'm going to break down. It's good answers. The conventional, like a septic tank, if you got one on your daycare or a store you go to and shop or your home, that is a universal, every 3 to 5 years, EPA says that. Health department can't go out and make you pump your tank, okay? It's like you drive your car, if you don't change the oil in it, what happens? You know, you're going to have problems. That sludge that builds up over time will build up over time naturally, and it will eventually get into your field line, and you can collapse your field line. What it's going to do is going to cost you more money to fix. So, original question, does all systems require maintenance? Yes. That is just a time slot that is typical, okay? 3 to 5 years. Now, The complicated system, that other one, the mechanical one, it depends. I can't give you a straight answer for that because there is not one, okay? New systems, meaning if there's an advanced treatment system going in today in the state of Mississippi somewhere, well, a licensed, a certified installer is going to put it in, okay? By our regulations and NSF requirements, they're going to have to maintain that system for 2 to 3 years because that's just a requirement. It's the owner's responsibility for just establishing a contractor, becoming a maintenance provider, okay? Meaning, wastewater systems are out there. Some of them are probably 30 years old, 20 years old, whatever. Do your normal routine maintenance, okay? Homeowner can't just go out and tinker with these things. There's people out there that certified, they're authorized representatives. If there's an existing one out there, where you have to kind of let the owner or the certified installer get involved based on the manufacturer's requirements. There's no straight up answer because a lot of people, it's already too late when there's a problem. It was never pumped out or it was never working in the first place. I've been out on many inspections looking at existing systems for homes or businesses or whatever. There's absolutely hardly any maintenance being done. Again, they don't do anything until something's broke. So the answer to the conventional system, as you see, every 3 to 5 years for an advanced treatment system, manufacturer requirements. You've got to physically look into the system. You've got to see what it's doing, depending on what the homeowner, how that homeowner is using it.
Question.
Yes.
Where how do it get taken to be done? Where do it go to be done?
Okay, the waste, once it's pumped out, okay, when we regulate, my office, the installers, we give license, train those who put it in, install the systems. We also regulate the pumpers, certified pumpers, who pump the waste. You ever seen those big vacuum trucks on the highway or whatever? Big 18-wheelers, some of them are small. They pump the waste. They have to take it to a treatment facility. You remember that picture that I showed you with the road that showed down where everything's disposing in the river? It's got to be a treatment facility. So they have to take that waste, and that's what we monitor, make sure that pumper, when he or she picks up a load of waste from a tank, either one of these, they have got to take that truck and drive it to a proper treatment facility for treatment.
Not the river.
Not the river. Amen. That's right. We get a few of them that want to try it. They got, I got 40 acres, and they unlatch the hatch and let it go. And you can't do that. Saves them. I mean, it's probably, to give you an idea, probably about $200-300 to get a tank pumped. If I can save that, yeah, there you go. If I can save, I got a bunch of land, I dump it in the river, hey, I just saved me some money. All right? Until the deadgum health department comes involved, you know, and ruins the day. Okay. All right, we'll go to some pictures. That was to give you an idea. These are some random pictures. There's a septic tank, a concrete one. That's typical. Looks big once it's out, but you know, there's one going in. This is just for a house or a trailer, you know, waste going in, waste going out in the field line. This is one that has risers. We just had a recent regulation change as of last November. We require risers, which may help identify in the future that you can see, because all these tanks are buried. You don't see anything. And there's a bunch of old ones. So now, since of November of last year, we require a new rule where you can see this lid. It's got to be visible. Okay? Maintenance. It's an economic factor. We kicked around many different ideas with this. We had an advisory council. Actually, if the way it was described to us is if you have a septic tank at home and you need it pumped out, if that guy's got to go out there and grab his shovel, he's going to charge you about $40 on average to dig that little lid up 6 inches underneath the ground. Not that's why we wrote the rule, but it's a maintenance to get homeowners to know, here's your system, have you had it pumped out, here's access to it. And it's just, it makes sense because some of the openings are smaller and some people just don't do it because they don't have access to the unit. Poly tanks, there's different sizes, shapes. These are all registered products. We register all these. You can't just have a tank put in the ground. We tell you how big it's got to be. We tell you how to build it. We tell you how to register, label it, the whole thing, whole 9 yards. Don't have too many images of the treatment units, but that's one. Obviously, more details going on. You've got your inspection ports, and you got your risers over different components. You remember inside, there's a bunch of lines in there. There's different things going in through there. This has electricity. It will have a motor that introduces air to it. This is us standing over one that's being put in by an installer. That's an advanced treatment system. There's a pump in there. These are some of the components on the side of a building. That's somebody just took the motor out and put it right there. There's a little air compressor. You ever seen one of those? That's the little motor that introduces air. There's another one right there. That's the air conditioner unit. There's the control panel. Show you this one. This is a food processing place. You're an inspector, you come out there and you look around, smell and see if you see a wastewater system. And look at that right there. That's a wastewater system. The tank's underneath that deck. You'd never know it's there. They drilled and put the unit, the little air compressor down below. You would never know if you don't know what you're looking for. So, you know, you got to figure out if you're doing an inspection of a daycare or if you're home or whatever you're looking for, you need to know, does that have a septic tank or treatment unit, what's going on out there. Big thing is if you see one of those little air compressor or electricity, you got a treatment system. Couple of common issues I'll run through as fast as I can. Common issues, no maintenance. I've said that before, a lack of maintenance. Always go out to, when you disinfect, you have to disinfect if you're spraying wastewater. Have you ever seen a spray irrigation system? A lot of homeowners do not put the chlorine tablets in. You certainly know if you're having a barbecue or outside in a patio when somebody wastewater system turns on and they don't have chlorine going on. Leaks inside. If you have a leaking toilet or a faucet inside or a shower, you can wreck a wastewater system. It'll flood it out and saturate the ground. It might take a week or two on top of rain before it recovers. Just for even a flap inside of a toilet, $7 for a kit to fix will mess up big time a wastewater system. Abuse, common, avoid chemicals, food, baby wipes, things like that. Look, number one and number two, all the things go in there, okay? Nothing else. Nothing else. I don't know what size children you're dealing with. Tell them. That's the only thing, okay? That's all you need to put in there. That's what it's designed for. You can't put in all kinds of other things. And I know some things you can't control. Pumping schedule, we went over that, okay? Stress loading, spread out the water usage. Some of these facilities have wash machines and things like that, I'm sure. Dishwashing, just like at home. Space it out. Don't wash 7 loads of clothes every Saturday morning. You can't do that if you're on an on-site system. You have to change your way of living because it has to rest and dose, okay? Warning signs, slow flushing toilets, drains, odors. Outside, there's a damp surface out there. Have you ever seen the green lines or something like that out in the field? If it's dry, it's okay, but if it's wet, you've got a problem. Backing up, lush green over the field line areas, sometimes sinkholes. I'm not going to get to them. I think I've expired my time, but if there's any questions about this. What's that? I'm okay?
Oh, she saw me stand up.
I got
Presentation. Next, we have MDEQ's very
Hi, everybody. How everybody doing this afternoon? All right. Well, today I come to you all to talk about common issues with septic tanks and ATUs. All right. I am with the Mississippi Department of Environmental Quality. I am in the municipal and private facilities branch and enforcement and compliance division. Basically, I deal with enforcement and compliance issues with municipalities such as cities, towns, and private facilities such as like daycares and other facilities like maybe that has an ATU or septic tank, maybe like a Dollar General or something like that. Okay. Down. Okay. Awesome. All right. Question. I know you all are thinking, why are we talking about treatment of wastewater? I own a daycare. I run a daycare. Why? All right. So a lot of people realize, that either you all may live in like large cities like City of Jackson or, at a place that has centralized wastewater treatment like how Mr. Charles was talking about in the last the last presentation. So you really don't realize or think about where your wastewater is going once you flush your toilet or drain it or, go down the sink, because you're really not thinking about it. It's gone. I ain't worried about it no more. All right, so it's basically like he said, out of sight, out of mind. But for rural areas, such as, like maybe out in the country that does not have a centralized, wastewater treatment system, they have to have ATUs or septic tanks on site, like how Mr. Charles was talking about in the last. And you don't really realize the impact that an individual treatment system can have on the environment if it's not properly maintenance-wise or not, or the wastewater is not being treated. You think about sewage going to our rivers, our streams, and where people fish, it's major. It's a health issue also. All right, basically what I just said. You know that we usually receive potable water or drinking water from our environment, such as rivers, reservoirs, groundwater wells, etc. All right. After potable water is used, it usually goes down the sink or the drain, or the toilet. It goes back into our environment where it was taken from. That's after treatment, after treatment. So, and usually we use our state waters for recreation activities like swimming, fishing, skiing, boating, farming, irrigation, and other ways. So, which makes this topic a very, very important health to our human health. So, all right, I'm gonna talk about little technical things. Hopefully, I don't bore you too much. Just stay on track, please. Let's try to stay on track with me. All right. If you're dealing with MDEQ, if you're not dealing with the health department, most times it's probably because you have a larger system. And probably because, you're dealing with more of a business. And it depends on if you are discharging to state water. If you discharge state waters, you come to MDEQ regardless. Does not matter, if you have 3 people in a daycare. You can have 100 to 3. If it discharges state water, you come to us. Health department, the health department cannot help you. State operating permit, it's what we call SOPs. It can vary between the health department and us, depending on the size and depending on if the health department wants to take you all on. So that's the 2 type permits with DEQ that you basically see with us if you have to go through DEQ. All right. State operating permit, SOP, or the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System Permit, NPDES. All right, basically we'll start with the state operating permit, or SOP. State operating permit is a no discharging system into state waters, land application, like how Mr. Charles stated in the last presentation. Discharge basically via on the ground, via spray field drift system, or etc. The ATU system which is installed by a proper installer, also has to be checked. This is in a permit that you all are going to receive if you have to go through DEQ. It's basically the regulations, basically almost your Bible of what you have to do for your system. All right. So basically, it has to be checked by a certified wastewater operator, Class 2. All right. You have Class 1 to Class 4. Class 1 is basically, I don't know if your towns or the facilities or wherever, like as far as a centralized wastewater treatment system has a lagoon, that's a Class 1. Class 2 is more of a technical, you have more mechanical parts. So so Class 2 to Class 4 can actually run your proper system. All right. If you have SOP, maintenance personnel has to at least visit the on-site system at least twice a year, once every 6 months. Has to have a written report and sent to DEQ every 6 months. It's required. It's in the permit. All right. Also, septic tanks, like Mr. Charles stated, has to be pumped out at least every 3 to 5 years. It's in the permit. Has to be done. We're going to want to see paperwork submitted in that also. All right. For the SOP permitting, there is no monitoring or effluent sampling required. All right. So this next permit that I'm going to talk about, has effluent sampling requirements in it, but as far as the SOP, you don't have to hire nobody to pull sampling, effluent sampling. You don't have to get a contract lab to test your wastewater. Basically, everything is on site. Okay. National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, or the NPDES program. All right. NPDES, discharging to state waters. Basically, you discharge the ditches, creeks, streams, rivers, etc. All right. The ATU systems are required also to be checked by a Class 2 operator or a maintenance personnel of the system. So it doesn't have to actually be a Class 2 operator, but if that person operates and is a certified and has I guess enough knowledge of the actual system, he can run the system for you. All right. This particular permit has effluent limitations and monitoring requirements. All right. If you have this type of permit, usually this is what you're going to see in there. You have effluent discharge limitations now. All right. Basically, these are like some of the major parameters that you will see in your permit: chlorine, fecal coliform, flow, biochemical oxygen demand, 5-day, pH, and total suspended solids. So you basically, these numbers right here, this is a daycare facility out of Alcorn, Canada. I just pulled out, just wanted to show you. But these numbers can vary depending on the stream you are sending to. All right, these are kind of good numbers, compared to what I have seen before. But it depends on where you're discharging to. These numbers can be even lower, which can make the ATU have to either have to be at a certain standard. All right. All right. Those main parameters that I just, that was just on the last slide. We have total chlorine residual, basically the amount of the available chlorine remaining after a given contact time. So, like Mr. Charles stated in the last presentation, you have to disinfect. You have to kill that fecal coliform, which I'm about to talk about. You have to kill that bacteria. Even though it may be clear, it still has bacteria in the wastewater. So you have to kill those bacteria before it goes back into the reservoir or the streams or wherever your receiving stream is. All right, fecal coliform is a bacteria human waste. Flow, basically the amount of effluent being discharged from that ATU or that septic system. All right, we usually measure this in million gallons per day. So then we also have 5-day biochemical oxygen demand, or 5-day BOD. basically is the amount of dissolved oxygen needed by a aerobic biological organism in a body of water to break down the organic materials present in a given water sample at certain temperature over a specific time periods. Basically, the amount of oxygen needed for those microorganisms in the wastewater to break down the wastewater. That's all it is. Because those microorganisms, biological organisms in that waste needs a certain amount of oxygen to actually produce, to do what it needs to do to break down the material in the septic tank or the ATU. All right. pH is also another parameter. It's basically is the negative log of the activity of hydrogen ions in an aqueous solution. Solutions with a pH less than 7 are known as acidic, and solutions with a pH greater than 7 are called basic or alkaline. Pure water usually has a pH of 7. Has a pH of 7, not usually. Has a pH of 7. All right, total suspended solids basically is the water quality measurements, measuring the amount of solids in the volume of effluent. Basically, you know, the solids which is coming out. You're going to have some solids come out. I haven't seen a treatment plant or an ATU that doesn't have a little trace of solids. You're going to have some. Really, the ATU and these treatment plants, they're discharging, even though they are under the limits. Basically, the treatment plant and ATUs and septic tanks basically help the environment by speeding up the process of treating this sewage before it actually hits the environment. Then the environment takes basically breaks down on its own, because the environment, it can do this on its own, but it will take time, if we just directly discharge into the rivers and streams, because, we can actually kill the environment, if we discharge it straight into the rivers and streams. But over time, it could, take care of itself. So basically, we're basically helping the environment by speeding up the process, treating it, then still discharging a pollutant, but at that specific point at that time, if it's actually being treated the right way, the environment can handle it and, treat it on down to basically which the environment has no more pollutants as far as the wastewater. All right, common issues with ATU or septic tank. A significant amount of solids can start to accumulate in the tanks, which these issues could occur. The aeration ATU may stop causing the aerobic biological organisms not to break down the organic materials and kill the organisms. Basically, if you don't have enough oxygen in that ATU or that septic tank, your organism will die. Your solids will begin to accumulate more, and you will probably have issues as far as backing up, or if you have a SOP or a field line, could cause the field line to collapse, or could cause them to stop up, causing the sewage not to irrigate, which could back up into your yard or back into your house. So, think about inflow organic materials is greater than what the ATU or septic tank is capable for treatment. Like how Mr. Charles Schultz said in the last presentation about discharging on Saturday morning, about 7 loads, washing cars, all that type of stuff like that. If the ATU cannot, some ATUs like I've seen, like he said, 700 gallons a day, 1,000, 1,200, 1,500, they usually say that per person, how we usually calculate per person is like 100 gallons per person. But just think about this. If y'all run daycares, y'all may have 50 to 60 kids. You're washing clothes, you're constantly, using the bathroom, you're flushing toilets. If your ATU is not big enough or is not capable of holding that amount of flow going to the septic tank, you could basically cause the septic tank to discharge solids or not get the proper treatment it needs to be, it needs to get before discharging into our environment. All right. It could cause, and third, it could cause organic material to enter the distribution lines, causing to stop up, like I said earlier, causing, and also can cause solids to enter the receiving stream. That's one thing you do not want to see, the solids in the receiving stream. It's not healthy. I don't know if you have ever heard of water advisories as far as dealing with municipals and, dealing with sewage. It can be very unhealthy. All right.
When you have to have what, boiled water notice?
No, that's dealing with water. When we do water advisories, you can't fish, swim. You don't supposed to fish, swim, or do nothing in that body of water until they can actually go in there and take a sample. We call the fecal coliform, which is that same other parameter I was talking about maybe a couple slides ago. We go, somebody goes out there, pulls samples, make sure that the water level, as far as the fecal coliform is not as high, is at a certain level, then we'll reopen it. But if it's high, we shut it down. We don't want you to fish, swim. We let you know, but hey, you got some people that'll still do it. You know what I mean? Even though you tell them. But we just give you the heads up. Also, think some things be put in the system which the actual ATU or the system cannot break down. Wet wipes, seen a lot. I don't know if you heard. I know y'all probably know because y'all daycare systems, but a lot of these wet wipes, they say it dissolves. No. Flushable. Yeah, flushable. That's the key word, flushable. I have seen tons and piles of wet wipes in a ATU or clogging up at a municipal private facility, and it just gives everybody the blues. Also, cooking grease. Cooking grease can clog up a line like no other. And you'll think about, you just see people, they want to get rid of it. They don't think about, the issues it can actually lead to. They just pour down the sink, it'll drain on, but actually cools over time, it layers up and it gets hard as rock. Then you had to call Roto-Rooter out there to break it down and basically gonna say, hey, you flushing grease down your line, don't do it no more. So, all right. Also, if you have an NPDES permit or SOP permit, you are regulated by MDEQ. So, those common issues that I just talked about could lead to violations on your permit. That's the last thing I kind of dislike doing that, because especially when I'm dealing with daycares or small facilities that don't have a lot of money. They're trying to make money, just trying to take care of, they're dealing with daycare, dealing with kids. And, and they're not able to meet their requirements. Why? Sometimes it's because, they're not taking care of the ATU properly, not getting somebody to do maintenance, and not doing, which is causing issues with the effluent discharge limitations. They're not meeting their limits. I broke my heart maybe 2 years ago, had to bring a daycare in, and it was why are we bringing a daycare in? But, hey, they were not, doing what they were supposed to in their permit. So, which they violated the permit, and they had to pay a penalty. It was a good significant amount for that facility because they were a private facility, did not have a lot of money. So, yes.
Can you let me know what the penalty range is for violation?
It depends on your size of your effluent discharge. It could vary. For smaller facilities, probably I think the lease is probably $1,500.
But that's gonna be per day per violation, normally for state, is that right?
If you want to actually do technical, okay, actually technical, it's $25,000 a day. Per day, per violation. All right, but we kind of slim it down for DEQ. It's $25,000. That's $25,000.
We will go out of business.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why it breaks my heart, you know, when I see small facilities. You know, they're really not in the. You all are really not in the business of doing wastewater treatment. Y'all have to do it because maybe y'all in rural areas. You know what I mean? So there's no centralized sewer, you know, that will actually take your waste. So you have to do it on site. So which, you know, that kind of hurts my heart. So, all right, these are pictures. All right, that is the ATU being installed over there to the left. That is a backed up septic tank right there to the up top right here. You can see the sewage. It basically has been pumped out for a good 10 years, look like it. And probably backing up to the home and everything. Okay, gotcha. All right, this right here is a good example of a SOP. At the bottom, basically spray field discharging. All right, this particular picture right here, I didn't really talk about it in the presentation, but usually when you have an SOP, there should not be any pooling, like how it is right there. It should be basically penetrating through the ground at a constant. So for some reason, this particular facility was having issues with pooling. I don't know what was the issue was, but you know, we told them to look at it. You know, have your report. You know, send your report in. We're gonna take a look at it to see exactly why it was doing that. All right, that right there, the picture to the left is also the same SOP facility in that last picture I was just talking about the spray field and pooling. The wastewater should never be discharging out of the berm area. So basically you had a particular area which the berm breached. It was actually going to the environment, into a ditch. So basically they're actually discharging now. They're not discharging to the land, they're discharging to the environment. All right, this particular picture right here, I don't know if you noticed, but you can see that gray look like mud right there. That's sewage. That's sewage, which is basically being discharged into a major receiving stream in the Delta. I don't want to say what stream, but it's in the Delta. It's in the Delta. I don't want to say, oh, no. All right. So in this picture, you can tell this is upstream, this is downstream. So you can see the different colors of the stream. So that's why talking about what we're talking about sewage is so important, because basically this is being polluted. The stream is being polluted with sewage. All right. Questions? Any questions? I can also talk about questions that, as far as municipalities, like if you live in the city, if you got questions, also, you don't have to be just dealing with ATUs. But
He's gonna come and tell y'all how to save some money at y'all facilities in case y'all had. Thank you so much.
Now, everybody else is going to clap for Gail, with the exception of myself, because she's leaving me, okay? And I'm not happy about it. As she said, my name is Lisa Campbell Johnson, and this is my co-worker, soon-to-be retiree, Gil Sims. And we're here to do today what we do every day. We love to get out and engage the public to help you save money. So welcome to reducing energy costs in your child care facility. So I'm excited about being here. How many of you guys actually own the facilities that you're in? Work for the daycare, actually, in the daycare? All right. So you're near and dear to my heart, because the entire years that I was in college, I worked at a preschool. Finished working at the preschool, came down here to Jackson at the daycare center in grad school. That's where I worked up until I got to this job here. So I understand how tough it is to try to operate a business and, raise somebody else's children, and then talk to the disgruntled workers who you're not paying all their money, but you want them to help you save money. So what we're going to talk about today is a few things to get you to where you need to do, because at the end of the day, this is all about saving money, saving energy, okay? Now, this looks like a remote, and I can't operate it, so how it goes. Okay.
Okay. This is just advance with this if you need to go back.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, 7 got you in advance. All right. So, why do we save energy?
Save money.
Oh, that's right. So when I say the word energy efficient, what do you think of? Well, the dollar sign. What? Give me one.
Well, saving money, like she said.
Okay.
Dollars.
Okay, energy efficient. When you hear that word, what do you hear, ma'am? In the choral. Oh, I'm blocking the whole screen. Send me back up over here. Somebody help out. What do you hear? Okay. Very good. Long story short, when we say energy efficient, we do not want you to think that we don't want you to use energy. We want you to use energy. But what we want you to do is to do more using less. All right? So pretty much, why? What is the purpose of that? So, do you have? Come on, Gil. You got your? Okay. Guys, who has one of those little numbers that Gil just passed out to you? You didn't get one. She only passed out a few. All right, come on up. Let me see you. You come on up. Real simple. We cannot separate using energy, saving energy, and saving money. We can't separate those things. Those things are connected. They're woven together like a fine knit sweater, all right? So what do you have on your? 4%. Yeah, 4%. Gail, give her 4 M&Ms. You get your 4 M&Ms, you can go to your seat. And you just stand up where we can see you. Now this 4% represents the electronics that are in your facility, all right? You have 12. 12%, you're representing lighting. So that's about 12 M&Ms. Lighting. The lights that you use in your facility, all right? What do you have, darling?
17.
You have 17. You're a big energy user. You're representing cooling, okay? What do you have?
29.
20. You're a big energy user too. You're representing heating, okay? She's greedy, real greedy. She's the reason they don't get those Christmas bonuses. All right, 14%. Okay, you're representing the water heating. All right, what do you have? 11%. 11%. Okay, you're representing others. That would be that little things like the people in there charging up the cell phones, you know, the little Samsungs, the little tablets. You're representing ceiling fans, the vents and things like that, those extras. You know, those little space heaters under our desk, that stuff. Who you have, 19? 13%. You're representing the appliances. That's your refrigerators. That's your, okay. Your refrigerators, your dishwashers, your washer and dryers, your freezers, yeah, all that, your garbage disposals, okay? Now, the way that we save energy is first we have to realize that the building that we're in, it is not what's using energy. It's all of you who are using energy, okay? So what I want you to think about is how do you reduce your usage, okay? If we can, who's that had the big energy users, the heat and the air conditioner? What can you do to change your habits?
Turning lights and stuff on.
No, what are you? Who are you? Did you just get a cooling? Who's cooling? Who's cooling? You're cooling. Okay, I'm sorry. Cooling. What can you do to manage you so that you can reduce the cost of the energy you're using?
When you're not there.
Exactly. 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 So what I want you to think about this sweater, we're all woven together. We're all there together. So how do we reduce our use? All right. One of the things I want you to think about is the first thing that we always think about. How do you change your behavior? This is behavior modification. You're in the daycare. Every day you're teaching. You're teaching your students, and every day you want your teachers to be there to give instructions. So we have a few programs here of some things that even as young as your kids are, that you can help them save energy to reduce their costs. So like I said, been in the preschool a long time. This is my friend here, Awful Lot. His name is simply what he does. he turns things off a lot. How many of you remember being in the classroom when you were younger and you were like the little deputy of the classroom? Your whole job was when everybody got out the classroom to go to recess or go to the cafeteria, their job was to turn off the light. It's no different. Turn off the lights. If that light is off, that meter is not running as fast, okay? Other programs you can do, because the younger they are, you planning them now, that makes my job 15 years from now a little easier, because they're already energy self-conscious, okay? There's a program called Louis the Light Bulb. Louis comes with a whole education pack. He has videos, everything you can think of to send that message to students. Near and dear to Gail and I heart are Energy Patrol. These are free programs and materials. Some of it you have to pay for, but this one here is free. It's with our Mortimer, who's our monster of energy education. What he does is tell them about things they can do around that building to save energy. This is a great summer program that's going to help you reduce the cost of cooling, especially when you have those after-schoolers there that are there all summer. This is a nice project for them to do. This is free material. We'll be glad if you want it. Afterwards, contact us so that we can get that information to you. But all of this is behavior modification because Billy's done use energy, you do. All right? Now, how many of you guys here, this is operations and maintenance, how many of you hear them say about a house, well, if you don't, take care of the house go down. Okay, the same thing. If you don't take care of your facility, if you neglect your building, that facility is going to go down. If you have janitors that are on staff, those are the people that you work with to help you reduce the cost of energy. And you're going to do common sense things, the same thing that you do at home. If he is going to vacuum on a nice, bright, sunny day and y'all have nice windows, it's not necessary for him to have on all the lights on every wing of the building. All right? Vacuum, you may not need the light, cut the light off when you leave. All right? The other things that you can do, common sense things, those little LED, little night light things you stick in there, it uses the rays of the lights, and it costs pennies a year for your facilities. You can put those throughout the buildings and use them and reduce your cost of energy. Very common sense thing. When you're not at your building after hours, swing by the weekend and see what it is that you see that's left on. The office equipment. A lot of times we call these phantom users. Like I said, those phone chargers, the copier is still on and plugged. Get your server. Click it off on a Friday. Let it stay off for a couple of days. You don't need it unless you're actually in the classroom printing something out then. That's money that you're saving. Things that you may not think about, like removing the light off the vending machine. You walk by the vending machine, if it's an old vending machine, the light bulb, once it's turned on, it's on and it's going to run. But if you don't need it, take the bulb out. I mean, you have an overhead light. You really can see. Big girl like me, I can identify the food now. I know that sneaker from that bag of potato chips. You don't need